It is officially that time of year where it is too cold to film in the garage anymore, so we're back on the dining room table. And welcome to what I want to become sort of a new format, I guess you could say. Not quite a series, but I'm calling it First Impressions, where I take a look at either like a platform or a system or even just a single component that I have like no experience for. I may have never touched it, never even turned it on, or I may have like very limited experience where I don't really know exactly like what performance or just what to expect out of it. And this is going to be the first try at it. Let's see if you guys like it, see if I like it. Is going to be AMD first generation APU versus Windows XP gaming. Bit of an odd topic maybe for the first episode, but this is something I wanted to try for a little while because on paper, this might not be a bad option for Windows XP gaming. Now, there's a lot to talk about with these first generation AMD APUs. I mean, they were pretty revolutionary for the time. I mean, technically Intel did beat them to market with having, integrated graphics inside the actual CPU die, but the Intel HD graphics were complete garbage. No one cares about them. This was the first one people actually cared about because it had performance worth caring about. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to go over all the hardware here, very brief background on some of it, and then we're just going to boot it up in Windows XP, and we're just going to boot up games. We're just going to kind of benchmark and just test it live, see if it's viable or not. For the uninitiated, AMD's first generation of APUs was on the FM1 platform, which launched in mid-2011, and I'm going to be honest, was kind of a garbage platform. Not garbage in the sense that it didn't work. This works fine so far, and people didn't really have complaints about it functioning correctly. Well, I mean, this one doesn't technically function correctly. The onboard Ethernet controller will just cause the system to not boot. And then even after you like unplug an Ethernet cable from it, it will still not boot for like a couple minutes. And then it just starts working again. That was really confusing. I thought the board was dead. So that's why this Ethernet card is in here. Other than that, it works fine. But FM1 was kind of garbage in the sense that it had really bad support. This got new CPUs for, I'm not kidding you, like 9 months or something. By early 2012, this system was basically completely dead and unsupported. And AMD moved on to FM2. So if you bought this, probably wasn't the best investment. There's zero upgrade path. Basically, there was like one CPU better than the flagship one at launch, which is what this is, and that was it. Everything else was a lower tier than it. So, yay, fun. Thank you, AMD. I'm really glad AMD has gotten better about support for, modern stuff and ignoring Threadripper. So this is a Gigabyte GA A75D3H. The A75 chipset was the flagship FM1 chipset. I think there might have only been two chipsets. I think there was the 55 and the 75. That's how short-lived this platform was. Pretty neat because, as far as I know, it's the first AMD desktop chipset that integrated like the Northbridge and all that type of stuff on the CPU die, and we just have the Southbridge down here. This board has two PCI Express 16X slots. Of course, the second one is only wired up for by 8, but that means you can actually run dual Crossfire in this if you wanted to. And of course, there was also that weird hybrid Crossfire where you could Crossfire a dedicated, frankly not very good GPU with the onboard graphics, which that's something I definitely want to take a look at some point, but that's definitely out of the scope of this video. But believe it or not, FM1 is actually completely fully supported on Windows XP. Graphics drivers, chipset drivers, the audio for this board is supported. Even the USB 3 ports on this board fully supported in XP, which is very nice. For RAM, we actually have some very high-end RAM. This is 2133 megahertz DDR3, I believe CL9 as well. Yes, it is CL9. However, this motherboard actually doesn't allow us to set the RAM higher than 1866, which is the max official speed for these FM1 APUs. Technically, we can change the RAM multiplier and adjust the hypertransport speed up. Actually, it might be FSB on this platform. Actually, I don't remember. Anyways, you can raise it up and you can get 2133 out of that. That's getting into overclocking territory, and I didn't want to really overclock this. You can actually overclock FM1, even the non-K unlocked CPUs, but again, I want to just kind of run this stock, so if you don't get a fancy high-end motherboard like this, you just get some OEM machine, you can just, hit the ground running and see what it does stock. And so our APU is the fastest and best one for FM1. Not that it really matters much, because it's only slightly better than the high-end one at launch. This is the A8 3870K. That is correct, K. AMD did use the K moniker for a very, very short period of time. Then they went back to the Black Edition. Yes, this is unlocked, both for the CPU cores and the GPU cores. So you could fully overclock this, both sides, any which way you want. Very neat. But of course, if you got like the A8 3850, for example, you could still FSB overclock that, and I think you can also GPU overclock that pretty easily as well. So you definitely don't have to get the high-end one. The CPU, it's a quad-core. On the CPU side of things, it's a quad-core running at 3 gigahertz. Now, this actually predates FX, so it's not Bulldozer or anything like that. This is using the older K10 architecture, so it's more in line with a Phenom 2 or an Athlon 2. And in terms of the actual specs, like speed and cache, it's more in line with an Athlon 2, which definitely isn't terrible. And in fact, for XP, this should actually be pretty good. I imagine this is probably very competitive with like a Core 2 Duo. It's the GPU that really, made this whole thing special, and it's the thing that will probably limit us the most. So the integrated graphics on here is classified as the Radeon HD 6550D. The D always denotes that it was integrated. You'd think D means dedicated, but whatever. I think this has 600 shaders, 20 TMUs, and 8 ROPs, something like that. And I think it's clocked at like 600 megahertz. I think roughly on paper, it's probably around like a mid-range HD 4000 series card. Shouldn't be too bad for XP games, especially anything, like 2005 and older. That should run perfectly on this. Be interesting to see the later games. Yes, we are going to test Crysis on here, but I really want to see how this performs with XP, because I think this actually has a lot of potential for a good budget XP platform. Now, building an XP machine is thankfully not crazy expensive at this point, unless you're going for early XP era, like 2004 and older. But if you're going for the later stuff, well into the PCI Express era, the GPUs are still fairly affordable for the most part. And the CPU and, motherboards themselves, LGA 775 is creeping up in value, but it's not horrendous yet, unless you're going for an absolute top-tier board. And you can still get like AMD, AM2 and AM2 Plus for not too much money. Of course, you can go for newer stuff like the AMD FX or, early Core i CPUs. But this in particular, FM1 is basically worthless these days. I did probably pay a little bit more than you would need to for the motherboard. I think I got it for like 30, 35 bucks, just because I wanted a pretty high-end board that I could overclock. And of course, it's got Crossfire and all this fun stuff on it. You could definitely get a cheaper board than this for probably in like the $20 range. CPU cost me like 16 bucks, but that's only because I couldn't find any for sale in the US, and I had to import one from China, which of course with the whole tariff thing right now meant that I was paying quite a bit of a premium for it, but even still 16 bucks is not the worst. And then the RAM, you definitely don't need to go with as high end of RAM as I did. I just wanted to kind of give it the best possible chance it could. But you could probably get some 1866 like CL9 RAM for probably, 12, 13 bucks still. So all in all, if you do some deal hunting, you can probably pick up a complete XP, platform for, I don't know, 50, 55 bucks, which is definitely not bad. And of course, you have a PCI Express slot, you can just drop in a dedicated graphics card later on if you really want to, and you have a perfectly fine CPU to pair with it. So I think this is actually probably a really good option. I mean, you even have PCI on most of these boards, so you can add like an older Sound Blaster, say Audigy 2ZS or an X-Fi. There's a lot of potential, I think, with this platform, even with just the integrated graphics. So I swear, I have not booted up any game on this other than Half-Life 2 extremely briefly just to make sure that it worked. So I'm going into this completely blind. I didn't look up any YouTube videos of this CPU playing like XP games. So I'm pretty excited for this. So let's go ahead and get this turned on. So this is the setup. I forgot to mention this is a 240 gig SSD just to make life simpler. And the DVD drive is here only so I can run Crysis later on because I don't have that on GOG. All the other games on here are GOG or don't require a disc. And yes, we are using a 5x4 monitor. This is a 1280 by 1024 HP display, which I think is made by Samsung. Personally, I think this is a really good sweet spot resolution for XP. I don't know. I don't think you need widescreen. I like both, but this is just what I'm going with. It'll give the GPU a little bit more of a chance of, holding up. So these are all the games we're going to be testing out. I don't have Crysis installed yet, but we'll do that at the end, of course, because it's the most recent game in the list, and of course it's going to be the most intensive. We do have Fraps running just to monitor the frame rate. I know Fraps isn't the most accurate. It's using the latest drivers for everything except GPU. The later XP AMD drivers are not the best for graphics. So we have Catalyst 12.4, which I think is like early 2012. So, I mean, it's not right at the beginning. It's probably a nice sweet spot for compatibility, speed, and just, it not being broken. So I think we'll start off with something it really should not have any problems with. Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Of course, this came out in 2001, and this is a Quake 3 engine game. If this has problems, I will be shocked. All right, so everything should be set to high. Oh, I turned on Trueform. I don't know if that still is supported or not. That might be an issue. This is a much newer driver set and just newer chip, and yeah, that might not work. Honestly, that probably doesn't work on later dedicated graphics cards anyways, so I probably can't really fault the integrated graphics for that. I really expect this to have no issues running. The Quake 3 engine has a 91 FPS frame cap by default. I think you can unlock it, but I'm not going to bother. All right. Got our Luger. Interesting. It isn't actually locking at 91. It is actually running lower. I don't know if that's a driver optimization thing or if that's a really bad sign of things to come. Wow, I did not expect this to be performing this low. I mean, it's not dropping below 60, which is good. Yeah, that's not quite as good as I was expecting. I imagine these newer drivers are not very well optimized for such an old game, so I can't really say that I'm surprised. Really just seems to be specific areas we're struggling with, but I debated on actually including this game because I thought, oh, this would be too easy for it to run, but I'm kind of glad that I did. Oh, it is actually below 60 now. Interesting. Huh. I mean, it's definitely playable. Wow, okay, down to 30? Ooh, that's not great. I'm surprised, honestly. This is actually a lot worse than I could have imagined. Let's go ahead and try Serious Sam, the second encounter. This is like 2002, I believe. We'll try OpenGL first. I want to say OpenGL is usually the go-to for this game. I know there are probably... I think this game does have like more advanced options I could pick if I really wanted to, but I don't really... We'll just leave it on the default like high settings without getting too, into the weeds here. Okay. Oh, we're into the hundreds. This is already looking a lot better. Okay, yeah, this is looking a lot better than Wolfenstein was. I was expecting it to maybe be a bit higher, but I'm sure there's something just probably bottlenecking it weird, but I mean, you can't call 130 FPS not playable. You know, I think Quake 3 engine games are all DirectX 7, I want to say. Might even be DirectX 6, honestly. I don't entirely remember. But yeah, I think that was probably a driver optimization problem, because this is working just fine. Because this is a DirectX 8 game. Yeah, I'm sure later levels do get more intensive than this, but this is a great, first start that. But I think we can pretty confidently say that this is going to be playable throughout the whole experience. That is reassuring for sure. I did think about putting in like a 2003 game, like I could do the PC port of Halo, but I figured we could just skip straight to 2004 stuff. We got a lot of stuff for 2004, but of course this game is infamously hard to run, so this will be certainly interesting to see. Put it on Ultra. I believe for the VRAM, I did set it to be a gig dedicated to it, so we can basically crank anything and we should be fine. I mean, of course, it would overflow into system RAM anyways, which is the same speed, so it really wouldn't matter much. I am turning up the brightness just so you can actually see it on camera better. Oh, cool. I have to restart the game. I love that. I think we'll leave it on 8x anti-aliasing for now. I think 16x that's a little extreme. I don't want to completely murder this poor thing. I want to say this game is a 60 FPS frame cap, but we'll find out. Ooh, uh-oh. Uh-oh. 30 FPS. Uh-oh. Not good. Ooh, it's laggy too. You know, I didn't expect Doom 3 to already be like filtering us, but we might actually have to turn down the settings in this game to actually get it to run nice. Kind of interesting, because this chip was famous for being able to run, current modern, like, DX11 games at, like, 720p, which I know isn't that high, but that was its main selling point back then. You could get, kind of 30-ish FPS out of it. So to see it struggling with older games like this is probably not the best omen going forward. This could also just be, again, driver optimization. I really don't know how much that's going to play into this. Granted, okay, so I haven't played Doom 3 very much, but from what I know, it's mostly these kind of narrow corridors like this, and this is actually handling it pretty well, so maybe it's just the really big wide open areas that are really causing big problems. Also, the screen tearing in this is horrendous. It is some of the worst screen tearing I've ever seen. Definitely want to turn on VSync for this. Okay, genuine question. Why is right-click bound to jump by default? What are we doing here? Really? Like, come on. Really, man? I have no idea how long the intro for Doom 3 is. I have a sneaking suspicion this is not going to be quick. It is actually staying at 60 for, like, quite a while now. So maybe it really was just that wide open areas that are the big issues. Oh, just let me go shoot some things. This is Doom. Ooh, okay. So not everywhere is narrow corridors, and that's showing it quite a bit. Let's see what we can adjust here. Let's see what the big issue really is. Let's turn the anti-aliasing down to 4x. What do you mean I need to restart? No, it went back to 8x. What? Dude, I told you to apply it. Why? Why is it doing this? It won't let me turn it down. That's so stupid. Dude, turn it down. Why is this such a big problem? Why is this such a massive issue? You can't do one simple thing? Can I even turn it off? Do you even allow me to turn it off? Do I have the privilege of turning off anti-aliasing Doom 3? Yeah, I'll be honest, I've never had the greatest impression of Doom 3, and this is cementing that even more. No, I don't even get the privilege to turn off anti-aliasing in my own video game. Thank you very much. All right, screw Doom 3. Let's move on to some good games. I don't know why I put Half-Life 2 in the after Fear. UT 2004. No, that's a real game. That's a real game right there. And Nvidia, no, we don't got that. Can we turn everything up all the way? We have the confirmation that we are good. Albatross. I feel like it's not very big. You know, we'll go with asbestos just because of the name. I don't think the CPU will have a problem keeping up with the bots really at all. I just want to have something to shoot at. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We are gaming. Look at that FPS. I'm looking at the screen off axis, okay? I'm not bad. What? You can just walk through this? Oh, okay. Sweet. Dude, over 200? This is exactly what I was hoping for. Wow, Doom 3 just sucks. I thought I added like 6 bots. Where is everyone? Yeah, all my experience is with UT99. I have hardly any time in this game. I don't even think I've seen it really dip below 200 very often at all. So, I mean, this is super playable. And again, this is highest settings. 1280 by 1024. You could easily play this game. You could probably play this at 1080p, no problems on this system. This is exactly what I was hoping for. And the screen tearing's not as bad either. Oh, my leg is falling asleep. Oh. Okay, I'm doing pretty good. Okay, these bots are not very good, to be fair. I think I killed like 10 in a row. UT is always a great time, and yeah, I'm very glad to see that this is working just fine on this system. Machine spec very high. Let's turn the resolution all the way up. Let's set it to like medium. Should be able to set everything to very high, I would think. Now, in my experience, Far Cry seems to be more limited by the CPU, actually. I don't know if the game is frozen or what's happening, but it's been sitting here for like over a minute and is not loaded. Oh, there it goes. Alright. Everything looks the same. Alright. Not too bad to start with. Of course, the real test will be once we get outside. I've got to find a way out of here. Ah. Yes. Okay, well, we're actually sticking just barely above 60. Might want to tone down, like, maybe just turn the anti-aliasing down to, like, 2 or off, so you have a perfect, always above 60, but I was a little worried that it might not be this good, but that's good to see. Oh, come on. Yeah, this is doing great. Look at that water. Oh. Ooh. Okay. Oh, there goes that. All right, the big test. So this is the original build of Half-Life 2, part of the collector's edition. So that's build 2153. So see how well this runs. Never understood why this defaults to easy all the time. All right. High detail. We'll do 4x. Reflect all.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Not that I wish to imply you had been sleeping on the job.
Well, the intro's doing good.
Deserving of a rest. And wine.
Welcome. Welcome to City 17. You have chosen
All right, let's get down to business. Oh yeah, she's running good. Whoa. Really seems to be the more we get into the DirectX 9 titles, the more well optimized it is. But yeah, you'd be playing this game no problem. Alright, next up here is Fear. And this one has a easy to use built-in benchmark, so that'll be nice. Can we handle maximum? Physics should be able to go max, no problem. FSAA. We'll leave AA off probably for this game. Probably kind of pushing it with going maximum, but yeah, we'll leave it like that. This I'm expecting to see worse performance. Yeah, that's gonna drop a lot. I mean, it's not doing terribly. I mean, you definitely want to turn some of these settings down, but it could be worse. I mean, that's not that bad, really. That's kind of better than I was expecting. Maximum graphics card high. There we go. Oh, really? That leaves all that stuff on? Oh, I didn't even have it set to maximum before. I'm just an idiot. All right, let's try medium. Apparently, that was not maximum. I forgot Fear has the two separate things. Oh, did that lower the resolution? That lowered the resolution. I did not want that. That is not what I wanted. I wanted on medium, but I want my 800 by 600. Come on, man. Really? You think we're weak or something? That didn't really improve it much, to be honest. I wonder if it really is just the resolution. Like we're maxing out like memory bandwidth. Which would definitely not surprise me, given that we're stuck with system RAM here. Okay, I mean, so fear is not going to be perfect on this unless you really turn it down, but I mean, I'm sure it would be perfectly playable. Do I really want to test Quake 4? No, I don't want to test Quake 4. BioShock. Now that's a game I know. Hi, everything is on high. Let's turn on global lighting. Sure, why not? Let's turn off VSync. I really should just start getting like save files for a lot of these games, because I'm pretty sure I don't have my original BioShock save file anymore, which means I'm gonna have to play through the game a bunch to probably get anywhere that's gonna, be intensive. Because, well, I mean that's intensive too. Granted, this is pretty intensive, but there's a lot of other places in Rapture that probably would push this. I mean, I did set everything to max, which is probably a bit optimistic for this game on this hardware, but it's on par with like the 360. It looks way better than it. So we're getting like mid low 30s in this area. What do we need to turn down? Let's turn off the global lighting. Man, I don't want to turn off any of this other stuff that really makes it, So it makes BioShock look good. All right, well, all right, let's try that, I guess. That is marginally better. Wow, the water looks so much worse. This is not looking great. Let's turn our resolution down here. Well, we can finally hit 60. We're only tanking the visuals of the game slowly, but hey, I mean, it's getting there. Yeah, this is definitely a bit optimistic for this hardware, but I mean, it is playable. Certainly, if this was all I had access to, you could definitely play the game like this. And this certainly beats the consoles at the time. Oh, I love it when Windows doesn't remember any of my icon placement. I should really just buy this game on GOG so I don't have to keep putting the disc in all the time. Alright, now I am not going to crank up Crisis like I've been doing with every other game, because I know that is simply way too optimistic. There's zero. We'll try it at native resolution and then we'll see how it goes. Jeez. Put everything on high. We can at least turn up texture resolution. That should be fine. Turn sound quality up to high. Everything else we should probably leave it low for now. And you can't skip the stupid cutscene. Why do games do this? Well, the frame rate up here isn't too bad. It's gonna get a lot worse when we get on the ground. Well, hey, I mean, that's not too bad. It is pretty impressive that integrated graphics from only like, barely 4 years after this game came out is already can do this. Sure, I mean, it's low settings, but, this isn't like the worst resolution in the world or anything like that. And this is surprisingly good. I mean, it's been staying above 60 like this whole time. I'm very impressed. Well, now I'm kind of curious what it's going to be like if we turn it up to like medium. Go with medium, but we'll turn sound and texture back up to high. Okay, yeah, that's definitely, yeah, a little too much for it. So, I mean, if you tweaked the settings around between low and medium, you could probably get a, close enough to 60 that, you'd be having a good time, but, make it look a lot nicer, because the game already looks immediately better. You could definitely play it like this as long as it doesn't, like, stutter like a bunch, which so far it's not. It's definitely impressive that it's doing this at all. Cool. Figured we'd go ahead and give it a bit of a CPU test, just with, some Cinebench 03, just so we can kind of get a rough idea of what the CPU performance is like. But I mean, really, this really is not a problem at all for XP. We have been 100% limited by the iGPU the entire time. Yeah, that definitely isn't too bad. That's kind of Core 2-ish range, I believe. I don't exactly remember, but it's somewhere in there. So what have we learned? Well, you can play XP games on it, but you're not going to have like the most amazing experience or anything like that. Some of the games really surprised me, like some of the early ones, like Return to Castle Wolfenstein was a lot worse than I was expecting. That's just got to be a driver optimization thing. But then some things like, Serious Sam worked fine, and Doom 3 was pretty bad, but Far Cry worked pretty alright. Fear was, okay. And Crisis was surprisingly decent. You just want to start out with this and then get a card later? Because, I mean, that was kind of what a lot of people did with these systems. Of course, usually they weren't running XP. Should you do that? Probably not, to be honest. Probably better off just buying like an AM2 or an AM3 motherboard. Really don't need this unless you just find an insanely good deal on one of these, like 20 bucks or something with a CPU. I guess I would give it a cautious recommendation. And of course, we could get more out of it. We could overclock it. I could try to push the RAM speed faster on here. How much is that really going to help out? I don't know. Probably not that much, to be honest. So thank you guys for watching. I know this video is probably kind of long and not maybe the most put together, but that's kind of the point of the first impressions style that I want, is we're going into it together. We don't know, unless, you looked up stuff beforehand, but we don't know what we're going to see and find with this, and we found that I was maybe a bit over-optimistic of what this thing could do, but hey, it does function. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.